as it relates to some of that nuance for you to consider.
Hello. So I don't know if this is part of the pending agreement with the federal government, but is there any commitment by DHS to have this new port of entry fully staffed? Because that has been a problem with the current.
That's the negotiation. It's the current negotiation. It's the heart of the negotiations that are ongoing and we anticipate conclude by the end of this month.
And another question. You mentioned the National Guard will expand operations for southbound operations. Can you just clarify what is that going to look like for the people that go back and forth?
Well, and as it relates to that, we're building on existing operations. We have, I think, about 6 versions of. Well, you know what? You got that damn head of the National Guard here. We might as well take advantage of this.
How are you, sir? Good to see you, sir. Thank you for being here.
So, yeah, let me touch on that just briefly. We're not going to talk about it in any great detail, given the operational security concerns we would have on an operation like that. However, like the governor said, this builds on the existing capacity and capability that we're already delivering to a variety of federal, state, local, and tribal law enforcement agencies across California, not just along the border, but up and down the entire state. So what we intend to do is enable existing law enforcement task forces to do a better job of interdicting guns and money heading south. We have a duty and responsibility, at least in my mind, to do that work better than we're currently doing it. We have broad support across the law enforcement community to support their efforts to do that.
Well said.
Hi, Governor. My name is Marina Zavala. I'm news reporter for Telemundo in San Diego. Can you tell us, well, I'm very happy to see you with the Senator Steve Padilla because just yesterday he spoke to us about the importance of this binational problem with the water. So my question is, why the state of California didn't ask for a state of emergency? Why didn't declare it while the city of Imperial Beach requests so many times? They have their beach closed for more than 1,000 days. Why not say yes to a state of emergency?
Because it would have meant nothing. It would have frustrated people because it, as the form and substance of fog as it relates to having any meaning, it would have been just a statement backed up by nothing. What we've done is we've gone back over and over and over again to Washington, D.C., and we've been successful getting now $453 million, getting hundreds of millions of dollars in the current budget that's being debated. And I've been, as you know, on the other side of the border, on this side of the border, active in engaging to get to this solution that all of us desire to see on this federal responsibility, and also holding our friends in the southern part of the border to theirs, which it appears they're making tremendous progress. And I want to applaud the governor, Baja, for the work she's done specifically in this respect. So that's the substance. The rest was symbolism. And so we've said that 100 times, but it's become a thing. And I get it. Often that's the case. But states of emergency as it relates to the one that we advanced today as it relates to earthquake are very finite in terms of what they can and cannot do. And they connect to well-established protocols as it relates to access of federal funds. What we were calling for, what some were calling for on this, would not have availed us to any real benefit except symbolism and then ultimately frustration that it didn't mean anything. What's meant something is action by your congressional representatives, by the senator and others, and by the White House, who's directly been engaged on multiple visits. And I say directly, I mean the chief of staff on down. They recognize the imperative, and they've been working hard to secure those dollars the last couple of years.
So just to confirm, declaring the state of emergency didn't bring more resources, more millions of dollars here?
And not a dollar. Yeah, in fact, we've added about $40 million from the state independent general fund, and we continue to provide resources from the general fund as it relates to air quality monitoring and other things. But the substantive, the real money, the IBWC, the money that comes from the federal obligations responsibilities, that $353 million that's been locked in, 103 last year, 150 the prior year, and then the money that's currently being debated and appropriated, a few hundred extra million dollars, will get us to the goal in terms of the big projects that we just announced a few weeks ago, as you know, in a big press conference down at the border.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Governor. I just have a quick question. Tariffs have been a huge topic of conversation, and this looks like an economic gateway to that continuous conversation. I want to ask you, what do you feel is still maybe the misunderstanding the public has in terms of how this tariff will impact their daily lives?
They don't know what tariff means. I asked 9 out of 10 people, what's a tariff? They say, I said, no, what is it? Tariff's a tax that you pay for. It's not even complicated. This is one of the biggest tax increases in U.S. history that this guy, Donald Trump, just proposed. That's a hell of a thing. Yeah. And that is disproportionately impacts you. Impacts the cost of oil and petroleum. You're upset about costs of oil? It directly impacts the cost of oil. Impacts the cost of medical drugs. Impacts the cost of food. It's a tax that you pay for. And you know what? Most regressive tax that exists and the modest revenue it generates is to offset a massive tax cut for billionaires and corporations. That's what he's proposing. You can't make this up. And he's proposing it on 2 partners, Canada and Mexico, that he just advanced a partnership with a few years ago, the USMCA. They did the exact opposite, where there were no tariffs, no taxes. And that's allowed the dynamism and allowed the economic development and lowered costs. So this has an inflationary impact. And again, there's people on the left and the right, they universally say it. He's just stuck in old mice. I wish he would, I was just watching a great old video of Ronald Reagan educating the world about tariff policy. I wish he were still alive to educate the president-elect. But he couldn't be more wrong. Targeted tariffs, I'm not naive here about how they can be used effectively. But in this notion that everybody's going to start onshoring, we're going to start producing bananas in America? We're going to start producing coffee in America? No, those are simple taxes that you'll pay for, that everybody watching will pay for, and the impacts are pretty alarming.
Governor Salvador Rivera, Border Report, Fox 5 here in San Diego. I'm the last one. Go get you out of here soon.
Those are always the most dangerous.
All right, I'm going to change the subject a little bit.
See,
I want your thoughts.
I knew it, brother.
I want your thoughts on what happened a month ago today. What went wrong? How did Democrats get shown the door so badly? What would you have done differently than perhaps Ms. Harris or Mr. Walz did not do?
I appreciate it, and I hope you can appreciate if I appear a little political, it's because I'm intentionally trying to be, by not answering your question. And what I mean by that is I'm with Jon Stewart, who wisely said, be patient. What happened will be revealed. And it won't be revealed in the hours and days and weeks and even months after an election. That will absorb a deeper understanding over time. And that's the approach I'm taking. I wrote out, I'm not making this up, there's about 6 pages I have in notes. They're at my mother and dad's grave in the car of everybody's punditry that completely contradicts everyone else's punditry about what happened. And I did that purposely for my own absorption and edification, that it will reveal itself. I don't have a clear answer to it, and so as a consequence, I won't attempt to answer it.
Just can you tell the Hispanic community, especially in the border towns, how is it the role of the National Guard that is going to be the criminal stopping the
100%, yeah.
but not the other side?
Yeah, no. Yeah, no, look, since 2022, November 2022, we've had 392 National Guards men and women doing extraordinary work that has not in any way, shape, or form created any kind of anxiety or impacted the community in the state of California outside the focused efforts on counter-narcotics and addressing the issue of drugs on our streets and our drugs all across the state, and have helped absorb some of the burdens placed upon Border Patrol as it relates to lack of staffing at ports of entry. So this is a consistent operation that we want to maintain, and then the expansion of that will just be focusing on issues related to illicit money coming south and weapons of war that often come from states, neighboring states, less from the state of California, but come through the border to Mexico. So don't fear that the expansion of National Guard is inconsistent with the past practices and policies. But I do want to just close on this. If you were the last two final questions, I'll make this the last final point. It's frustrating to me. You have a president, it goes to the question about operations and the lack of funding from the federal government to fund the appropriate level of staffing for asylum judges, for border patrol, fill in the blank. And that was all presented just a few months ago as an opportunity to actually resolve and address. And President Trump called the Speaker of the House and told him not to do it. The hypocrisy here is so extraordinary. And it's an Orwellian thing that they can spin all of this and somehow mislead people into thinking they have your back on a lot of these issues. So I do hope we get the resources for CBP, for OTAY MESA East. We're working with the Biden administration to advance that, but it has to be codified certainly by the Trump administration. And I hope they come to their senses on tariffs. I hope they come to their senses on looking at the border not just as a cudgel, but looking at the border as many people do down here from an economic perspective and looking at broadening the rhetoric as it relates to what's happening all across this country, but particularly here in one of the most dynamic economic regions anywhere in the world. With that, we're thankful all of you took the time to be out here. Thank you, guys.